Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, to the channel IT Simplified. Hope you're having a good time with your family and friends and liking these sessions. The topic for today's video is WVD Zero to Hero. The idea behind today's session is that under one video, you'll be able to see all the different steps which are involved to make the service up and running, and also test it out how it will look from the user perspective when they're trying to access these resources deployed within WVD environment. Now, I have taken different sessions on WVD in which I have broken these steps. But what I want to showcase today is that within one video, you have all these steps and you can go through this within one session so that it's easy for you. And all the steps which are there from step 1 to 5 are all listed, and that is what we're going to follow the flow. And this is going to be our architecture. I've kept it specifically simple. Everything will be deployed within one virtual network and a subnet, which is DC VNet and DC subnet. And I will divide my resources within 3 resource groups, starting with domain services, host pool, and storage account. The domain I'm going to use this is a free domain or a trial account that I'm using within Azure, which is customer 1505 Outlook. And my apologies for the name, but whatever free option was available, I'm taking this. And I'm going to pause certain steps so that you don't want to make sure that the video doesn't get very long, but at the same time you're also able to understand what are the steps involved in order to implement this on the Azure side. So with this in place, let's go to our Azure portal. And what we're going to do is starting with the step 1, which is to deploy the domain services. And for that, we're going to go and select our virtual machine. I'm going to go and click Add, starting with creating a new resource group. And this we have done this multiple times, so I'm just going to make it quick. So I'm going to review and create, and then we'll enable the domain services role on this machine. So let's go and click on create. And at this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. So the deployment is complete. At this stage, we are going to make changes to our DNS and at the networking level for this domain controller. I will also change the DNS at the virtual network level. So if I go under the VNets, okay, so with all these things in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish an REP connection to this machine. and deploy the domain services role. The role was installed successfully, so at this stage I'm going to promote this to a domain controller. So the domain was installed successfully and it has rebooted. I'm now logged in into my DC with my domain credential, and let's wait for this machine to boot up. So just going back to our diagram, as you can see that we are still on our first step, deploying DC and sync user. So once that machine is successfully up, we'll create some test user and then we deploy the AD Connect. Now while that machine is coming up, for step 2, I need the step 1 to complete. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the step 3 and create a storage account with the name SA1011 under the resource group FSRG. So let's utilize some time for that. And let's go to the storage account. Nothing unusual, all the regular stuff. And I'll deploy this in Canada Central. And it is okay, general purpose version 2. You can take all the default, review and create. And let's create a storage account here. Storage account is up. I'm going to go to resources. And what we'll do is we'll create a file share. So I'm going to highlight that, add file share. And I'll name this profile, and I'll set a quota here. Let's see, for testing purpose 30, and I'm going to use a tier as hot. If you're using maybe for production, maybe you want to use a transactional optimized or premium, because that is where we're going to save our user profile of FS Logic. So let's go and click on create, and that was saved successfully. The machine is still getting deploying all the settings which is required, so I'm just going to pause the video before we move further. All right, so the machine is up. You can see that it has been promoted to domain controller. My domain is up. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to create certain users that we can sync from this directory into our Azure AD. So let's go and open ADUC. I'm going to create a couple of users here. So let's say and I'll also create two more users with the name test1 and test2. Okay, so with this in place, what we're going to do is I'm also going to create one OU, which we'll be needing in the later part of the video. So let me just create one organizational unit, and I'll name this on-prem and click on OK. All right. So we have a couple of users in place, and we have an OU which we're going to use later on. And now what we're going to do is we'll use a free tool to sync our users into Azure Active Directory. And for that, I'm going to use AD Connect. So let's go and run this. Won't take long. All right, so with AD Connect tool in place, let's go and select the agreement. Continue. I'll use the Express settings. Okay, so at this stage, I need to provide the person who has the Azure AD Global Administrator credential. So let's go and put that. Grab the domain full credentials here. And the password, if I remember that correctly. Right, seems to have worked. And at this stage, it's saying that you need to provide credential for the Active Directory. So our local Active Directory credential for that. So let me provide. Okay, I hope I got the password correct. Okay. Let me try one more time. Okay, so with that in place, I will continue without matching the UPN suffix. It's okay. Let's go and click on next. And at this stage, I'll start synchronizing all my users from my local Active Directory in Azure AD so that we can use that to test this with our WVD environment. So let me just minimize all those things. And I'm going to pause the video while the synchronization is taking place. All right, so the syncs was successful. So I'm going to come out of this, but let's go and cross-check on the Azure side. So if I go on the Azure AD, I should be able to see all those users. So here we go. I have these users in place, which I can to use for testing purpose. All right, so let's go back to our diagram. So we have done the first step successfully. That is all in place now. And what we're going to do is we're going to move to the next step, which is deploying the host pool. So let's do that. And let's go and search for the service. We'll create a host pool. We'll create a new resource group for this as per our diagram. It's host pool resource group. I'm going to name this ITS. Yes, I want to validate the environment. And I'll keep this under the pooled category. Number of maximum users, I'll keep it 5. Breadth first is okay. And I'll add the virtual machine while the host pool is getting created. And I want the virtual machines to be in Canada. And for testing purpose, I'm going to keep one machine. And the prefix I want to give is, it is for ID simplified. And I'll use the image from the gallery, which is Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session. With 365 apps, I'll keep the standard SSD, and I will deploy this under the virtual network under which my domain services is, because it needs access to the domain services. And generally, you won't have a public IP for your machines, but for this purpose, I'm going to keep it because I need access to that. Rest everything, I'll keep it standard, and you need to provide the AD domain join UPN. So you need to provide the credentials here. All right, and then we also need to have the workspace in place to register the desktop group, and let's name this. Click OK, review and create, and let's click on the create button. Now, while this host pool is getting created, what we're going to do is we'll utilize some time. So I'm going to go to the storage account. And actually what I'm going to do is let's give the access at the resource group level. So I'm going to resource group under which my storage account is. It is FSRG. I'm going to give owner access at the resource group level. So if I go under my resource group under which my storage account is, let's go to access control. Let's go click on add role assignment. And I'll give the owner access here. Say for WVD admin. Right here, click on save. All right, with that in place, what I'm going to do is, let me just go under my resource group, under which my storage account is. I'll give specific access to the storage account by going to access control and add role assignment. The role I'm going to select here is, I'll pick storage account, storage file data SMB share elevated contributor role for WVD admin. And for the other users, I'll give the contributor role. That will be important in case you have to share the files and from the FS Logics perspective. So let me just add after that is done. Let me add also the test1 and test2. And this time I'm going to give the SMB share contributor access. All right, so both these roles have been added. Let's go to our WVD and see that how that is taking place. So if I go to my host pool, yeah, the things are appearing, but I've still not got the successful notification. So what we're going to do is we'll wait for that. The deployment is still in progress. So while this is getting done, what we're going to do is I'm just going to move to the third step. So basically we have created the storage account, but the file share that we have created, we need to integrate with our domain services. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my domain controller and we need to go and download a module for that. So you see it gives us information about how to integrate, and the module that I need is this AZ file hybrid module. So let's go and select this, and let me just so after you download, make sure that you extract this. So I'm going to extract all this. And once that is extracted, what I'm going to do is I'll just copy the path. And we need to run certain commands here. Now for that, I'm going to use PowerShell. And I'll open it as an administrator. Just going to minimize other files. And let me just open the and give the path. I'm going to change the directory and go to the path where I have extracted that. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to run certain commands. So let me just copy. And put this here so that's easy for us to run. So let's run this first command after you have changed and given the path where you have extracted the file. Then the second command. And then we're going to import the modules. Now I'm going to run the fourth command, and I think we did provided the access, but let's see. This is for the storage account that we gave access. I think it was WVD admin if I remember correctly. So let's just wait for that to provide. WVD admin at All right, and now we need to run the final command. Let's see. And we need to provide the subscription ID, and that I should be able to get from any of my resource group. Let me just copy this and let me try to provide. Hit enter. So that's good. So all we are doing is to make sure that we are able to add our file share and connect it with the domain services. So with that done, there is a final command that I have to run, which is basically to provide the resource group and the storage account. So let me just grab that. And the command that I'm trying to use is join the storage account for authorization. Here I need to provide the resource group name under which my storage account is. So it is FSRG. And the name of my storage account is SA101. Domain account type, organizational. So this is the OU that we created in our DC. And I also need to provide my domain name. And let me grab that. Okay, so with that in place, let me just copy this. And let's try to run this now. All right, so the command ran successfully. As you can see that it is in Canada Central, it's standard read access GRS storage version 2, and the access tier was hot. It was successful, but we can cross-check this. So if I go under my organizational unit, I should be able to see that my storage account. Okay, not yet. Let me just refresh. Here we go. So my storage account is available here, right over here, and it is the description. And you can also further cross-check by going on to your Azure portal. And if I can go under my storage account, I should see that it is connected to my local domain services, and that you can find under configuration and right over here. So you see Active Directory domain services, and this has been now enabled, which was not the case before. Okay, so that's good. So far so good. So just going back to our diagram. So what we have done so far is we have done our step number 1, and just make sure that our host pool was created successfully. Still going on. Okay. So step 1 is done. Step 3 is also done. Hopefully we'll be able to, that will be deployed successfully. We're just waiting for that confirmation. But so far so good. So let me just pause the video till we can move forward. All right, so the host pool has been deployed successfully. So if I go under resources, you'll see under session host, still showing unavailable, but I definitely see the machine is up. So we're just going to give it a moment. But what we can do is we can assign some users. So I'm going to go under assignment. And right now there is no assigned user. So I'm going to test this with the user test1 and add this to the desktop application group, which is created by default. So when we deploy the WVD, it creates ITS DAG, which is desktop application group. And we are going to test this with the username test1 in a moment, right? but just want to make sure that computer is there under the session host. I see one, and now you can see that's available. Now, with this, we have successfully, as you can see, created, done all the 3 steps successfully. Now we're going to do FS logic. But before we do that, let's just do a little bit more testing for the storage account that we created. We're going to map the network drive. So I'm on my domain controller. The storage account is integrated. We can definitely see under the Azure portal as well as on our domain controller. But what I'm going to do is, let's go and try to map a network drive. So let's go to PC, map network drive, and let's see it's Z. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the information of the storage account and give the path over there. There are different ways you can map the network drive, but let me show you one way. Hopefully it will be possible by using the way I'm doing. So I'm going to go to my share, and if I go into the properties, I'm going to grab this URL, right, and go back to my DC and just provide this and change this accordingly the way we are used to. At this stage, I'll also connect using different credential, click on finish. And at this stage, I need to provide the storage account name, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it is SA1011. So let me provide that. And the password it is asking is the key for that storage account. So there's an access key. I'm going to grab it, show key, copy this, and let's see if it let me do and connect to it. Let's say okay. And here you go. Now you can see that I'm mapped to the network drive. So let me just say create a folder, say test. And if I go to the Azure portal, I should be able to see that under profile. That's the name of my file share. And here you go. So it's all working fine. So if I delete from here, it should be automatically deleted from there too. So here we go. So it's all working fine. You see it's deleted from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to further go and put the Ntfs permissions here. So if I go and right click, go to the properties, go to security, edit, and go to add. For WVD admin, I'll try to give the full control. And for the other users, I'll try to give the modify access. So it is test 1. Okay. And they'll be able to modify. So let me just put for test 1 only because that is what I'm going to use it. So that's good. So that's done. So with that in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Azure portal and I'm going to connect to the machine. What we're going to doing is basically we are trying to deploy the FS logics for the user profile. So agent we need to deploy. And based on the number of machines, you need to deploy the agent on all the machines. There's another way of doing that. You can push that through the GPO policy. But I only have one machine, so I'm going to use that. So let me provide the domain credentials, which is right here. Try to connect to it. And let's give it a moment. Okay, so the machine has booted. So what I'm trying to do is step number 4, which is to download the FS Logic agent, FS Logics agent. Okay, let's go and grab this. Okay, and I'm going to extract this file. Okay, it's fine on my desktop, that's fine. Okay, and at this stage, let me go to x64, go to release, and this is the one that I want to run the setup. The setup was successful, and with this I should be able to close it. And what I need to do is I need to make changes in the registry. So let's go and open regedit. Let's go to HKey local machine, software, the FS Logic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new key with the name profiles. And at this stage, I'm going to create a new dword and say it enabled with a value of 1 and say OK. And also one more change I need to do is to create a new multi-string value, and it will be VHD locations. And at this stage, what I need to do is I need to give the path of that file share. So I need to grab that from my storage account. That is where all the user profiles will be saved. The idea is that as a user, they move from one machine to another, their profiles will be saved. That's the idea about, and the beauty with the FS Logics is. So let me just, and we'll see actually if that works or not. So let me go to my session host, provide this value. Click OK. Click OK again, and let me just close this. Okay, so with that done, we have also completed step number 4, and now is the moment of truth, right? But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to restart this machine. So go and restart for all those settings to take place. So let's okay, that's the right one. Let's go and sign in. Okay, stay signed in. All right, so you can see the desktop is there. If I go and click on this, it's connecting and launching the desktop. And it should ask me for the credential one more time. On submit. Did I provide the password? Allow. It's best one. Oops, yeah, that was missing. So customer. And try to connect it. Okay, so I got the green check mark. It means it's looking good. And for the first time, you can see the FS Logic app services is getting installed. So it seems like the things are working fine, but we need to do one more, just confirm one more thing. We need to go on the file share on our storage account and see that the user profile has been registered over there, but it is able to access. So this user, remember, it was on our local Active Directory. We have synced this by using AD Connect, and now it is trying to log in into the host pool to which we have given access to that. Now, while it is getting registered, let me just go and look at the storage account. If I open this and go to my file share, here you go. This is the user profile. So as I said, that when you have multiple user profiles, so going back to my diagram, so in this case we have only one, but in case the user comes back and registers, all his settings will be saved, and as he bounces around from IT0, and if you have the second or the third machine, the user profile will be saved, and it's all by utilizing FS Logic. That's the underlying technology. So with this, we have also successfully done our step 5. And in this, you saw end-to-end how to deploy and install Windows Virtual Desktop. I know the video was a bit long, but hopefully this gives you an idea about how to deploy WVD within Azure. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.